in synagogues around the world, the Jews will be reading the Torah section of Noah this coming Shabbat. And the Torah gives us a very succinct description of Noah. At the beginning it says, Noah was a righteous man, and then come three words, which will become the subject of a great controversy. In his generations. He was righteous in his generations. Is this a compliment, or is it actually an insult? Some rabbis say it's a compliment. Noah was able to maintain his righteousness in a generation like his, a generation that was so evil that God was going to bring a flood and destroy all of humanity. A generation that was guilty of the sin that the Hebrew word in the Torah is chamas, and that means violence and oppression. This was a time when those who had the strength abused and took advantage of, enslaved and robbed and raped those who were considered weaker than them. It was a terrible time, and Noah was the only one who stood against these evil forces, withstood the tremendous social pressure to conform, and maintained his righteousness in the eyes of God. So these rabbis say, if he was righteous in his generations, such an impossible time, had he lived later, at the time of Abraham, for example, when there were other righteous people in the world, all the more so would he have been super duper holy. But some rabbis see it as an insult, a criticism. How so? They say it means that Noah was righteous in comparison to his generation. In other words, he wasn't so great, but he just wasn't as bad as everybody else. He wasn't going with the flow. They were murdering and stealing and abusing and enslaving, and Noah wasn't, and so therefore he was considered righteous. But had he lived at the time of Abraham, say these rabbis, Noah would have been completely overlooked. He would have not amounted to anything. Now that's pretty shocking. How can they say that? How can they take away from Noah's credit when the Torah says about Noah at the end of the section of Genesis that he was someone who found favor in the eyes of the Lord? How can they detract from his righteousness when the Torah seems to go out of its way to praise him? I think it lies in the fact that Noah is one of the most silent characters in the Torah. He never says anything. Only at the very end, after he gets drunk and there's an incident with his son Ham, do we hear him speak. But until then, nothing. God is doing all the talking. God says there's going to be a flood. Noah goes, Now, God says you need to build an ark this way, that way. It takes him 120 years. He's going, God says I'm going to send you the animals. And Noah's like, We don't hear a word from the guy. But Abraham, he's talking all the time. He's calling out in the name of the Lord. He's building altars and bringing people close to faith in the one God. He opens up an inn, and when guests come to stay with him, he feeds them food and gives them to drink, and then says, please give thanks to God who created the universe and provided this food. So Abraham is out there talking it up, and we have many, many conversations that Abraham had with God and with his contemporaries at the time. Noah is silent. And I think that these are two different types of righteous people. And the rabbis are not insulting Noah. They're simply saying he was a quiet man. And he was a quiet, righteous man. He was able to withstand the temptations. But when it came to going out there and preaching and bringing people close, this wasn't Noah. When he's at a time that there's an Abraham in the world, nobody's paying attention to Noah because Abraham is the one who is doing all the work. And I think that both types are very important to have in the world because there is so much evil and hatred, unfortunately, being spoken out there. Yes, there's a ton of love and there's a lot more of it. But there is evil, there is hatred, there is slander out there. And first of all, we want people to at least be Noahs. Stay away from it. Don't believe it. Don't buy it. Don't become a hater. But at the best, we want more and more Abrahams who are out there fighting against this. When I was in the States over the summer, I took the family on a hike, a place called Slander Mountain near Copiague, New York. Now, I've gone on hundreds of hikes before, and I've never seen anything like this. But we got onto the hike about 15, 20 minutes in. We're walking along the trail, and I go, which I probably shouldn't have done, but no harm was done, because there, maybe 15 feet in front of me, was a nice, large, beautiful, and terrifying rattlesnake. waited till it crossed the trail, and continued on the hike. 20 minutes later, another one. A week later, I was sitting down at a place called Bashbish Falls, right on the New York-Massachusetts border, and I was sitting on the rocks enjoying the view from beneath the falls, when I saw in the cascades down the stream a rattlesnake, the third one, and it was drowning. And I started to think, as a religious person, is God telling me something here? And then I realized maybe yes. Because a snake, a serpent, is known for its venom that comes out of its mouth. It is a paradigm of evil speech, of speaking hatred. We have the serpent in the beginning of Genesis who uses his power of speech in order to destroy or try to destroy Adam and Eve. And what benefit does that snake have from its evil speech? None. It ends up eating dust, a completely pleasureless type of food. And I realized that there is a lot of that venom out there in the world. But there is hope, because this snake was drowning in the water. Water symbolizes life. Water symbolizes blessing. Water symbolizes Torah. And therefore we see that the way to defeat the venom of the serpent is to drown it in water. In other words, to become Abrahams and spread love, spread faith, spread truth, to prove to the people that what they are saying is false. So many slanders and falsehoods are put out there. Show them wrong and spread love and spread faith and spread brotherhood, and then the water will drown the serpent, and indeed the great things will happen in the world. At the very least, we should encourage people to be Noahs. At the best, we should encourage them to become Abrahams and do that holy work. Thank you.